I want to say a word about President Biden's debt relief plan, which was set to start canceling outstanding student loans as soon as yesterday, and which just got put on temporary hold. A federal appeals court has, for now, blocked the plan while it hears a legal challenge from 6 Republican-led states that claim they'll face serious economic injury if the debts are forgiven. Now, I was far from the only one, but I predicted on this show that this would happen. That this effort to wipe out much of the student debt stood on shaky legal ground, primarily because of how it was issued via executive order and not through the passing of any law. Late Friday, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals issued a stay preventing the Biden administration from moving ahead with forgiving hundreds of billions of dollars of student loans. 22 million people have applied for relief under the program. Now, a lower court judge had dismissed the lawsuit, ruling the states didn't have the proper legal standing to challenge the president's plan, meaning they hadn't shown they'd be directly and clearly injured financially by the debt forgiveness. The appeals court overruled that judge. But that is also something, by the way, we discussed on this show, could be an issue, and the question of the state's interest in the case is a real one. But putting the legal issues aside, maybe most troubling is that now you have millions of people in limbo. Some who came to count on that money, who should have been warned. This very likely could get struck down by the courts. Here's why. President Biden's plan is based on the HEROES Act, which was passed back in 2003 for vets fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq after the 9/11 terror attacks. It allows for the education secretary to waive debt obligations in times of war or national emergency. Today, according to the Biden administration, that national emergency is the COVID-19 pandemic, which is a reach. Many constitutional experts do not think a piece of legislation designed for times when the nation is at war applies to a now fading pandemic. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has been dismissive of the court's order to temporarily block the program. Education Secretary Miguel Cardona tweeting out this video over the weekend saying they're moving full speed ahead, preparing for implementation.
We promise to fight to protect you from baseless lawsuits trying to stop us from providing you debt relief. We will not stop fighting for you.
Well, whatever you think of the lawsuits, they aren't baseless or frivolous. Even the lower court that dismissed the case based on lack of standing by the states wrote, quote, plaintiffs present important and significant challenges to the debt relief plan. Late tonight, the government responded to the appellate court's order, pausing the program, asking the court to allow the debt relief to move forward, writing, quote, plaintiffs will suffer no irreparable injury from the provision of much-needed relief to millions of Americans, but the public interest would be greatly harmed by its denial. Look, I've made it clear I believe the $300 billion plus plan is bad policy and maybe even bad politics. I think for people who didn't go to college to have to subsidize those who did is troubling, and many people who already paid off their debts are frustrated as well. But my main legal concern, and the one I've discussed on this show, has centered around whether the White House was trying to stretch a nearly 20-year-old wartime law to cover what's clearly an effort to meet a presidential campaign promise just in time for the midterms. I don't know what will ultimately happen in the courts. The appeals court has agreed to hear the challenge on a fast-track basis. We may know soon, maybe even this week. And it's an interesting legal question about whether the state should have the standing or authority to sue. But even though I disagree with the policy, I feel for the millions who've now come to expect that the massive burden of college debt would soon be lifted, who weren't warned that this was going to be a tough legal fight. There isn't a right and a wrong here, and I fear that many have been misled by the administration, focusing only on what they hoped would happen next, instead of the realities of it. We'll certainly keep you updated. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.